Our next panel, we're going to start a teeny bit early. I'm going to give like a sneak preview. We have Justin Greenwood and Ramon Villalobos joining us. This is pretty awesome. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. And I know that I threw out about 17 different topics for you guys to discuss today, but you chose comics, so I was a little surprised by that. But I know that Ramon wanted to talk about the first place Oakland Athletics.
That's right.
But how they stopped the Giants last night.
Oh my goodness, what a failure! But anyway, this is our 2:30 panel. We're going to go right into it, and I'm going to let you guys kind of go at it here, and I will step out. But I appreciate you guys joining us, and you kind of will go back and forth between whether or not whoever is talking here. So thanks for doing this, guys. I really appreciate it, and let's talk some comics.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. What's up, Justin?
What's up, Ramon? You know, it's funny to have this in a panel format because we do this twice a week anyway, although I never get to see that beautiful face. Usually you have the video off.
Yeah, I'm using my phone. I usually just work on my computer.
Like a pro, man. You got the headphones on. Makes me feel like I'm slipping.
Yeah, I got Bluetooth headphones on Amazon.
Nice.
Pretty good.
What are you up to?
I was just working. I was just working on my Barbarian comic that I'm doing.
Yeah. How far, without being specific, how far along are you? You're doing interiors right now, right?
Yeah. I'm like 7-8 pages in, but it's really nice because they got me on like a very, I wouldn't say like lax deadline, but like they're not stressing me right now for anything. So it's just kind of like at my own pace, and I'm starting to like speed up as it goes, you know?
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
So, yeah, it's really good. It's really nice. I really like doing stuff there. How about you? What are you up to?
I'm working too. Yeah, Melissa took the kids over to the river to hang out for a little bit, and I'm just trying to plug away. The kids started school this week, so the work that I thought I was going to get done just ended up getting a little delayed. Like I'm most of the way through a batch of pages, but I need to finish today.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, plugging along. I was thinking about the StocktonCon poster this morning, thinking like, oh, there's a good chance to talk about it real quick because otherwise I always get sidetracked with something else. But you know what I think would be cool to draw is New Mutants.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
What do you think about that? I know they've been kind of in a blender the last couple we've done, but maybe we just do the straight up team. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I did New Mutants before for I did a commission with Ian Bertram, my boy. Remember that one? It was like massive. He drew a bunch of characters from a team I didn't know, and then they wanted me to draw the New Mutants, and so I drew like all the classic like '80s team.
Yeah.
And it was pretty neat. It was really like I don't know those characters at all, but like it was cool just working with Ian on something, and it was really crazy because when I asked him, like, you know, we've collaborated a few times and we kind of know like how to do it pretty well, I think. But when I asked him like what he wanted to do, because he had to start it, he was like, oh, I'll just draw it and then, you know, I'll send you it and then you draw. I'm like, well, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty easy, but you know, we're drawing characters interacting with each other, so he just sent me like this massive drawing with like all of his characters from, I can't remember the team it was from. It was some like obscure team. And it was like them punching the air and stuff. It was super bizarre. And then I'm like now in a situation where I have to like figure out like how to make that work, you know?
You had to design around it?
Yeah, I just had to like, okay, that guy's punching this guy's getting knocked back. Like it looked like they were just fighting like ghosts or something. Like it was and then I had to like try to make it my own. But that was a fun commission. I just looked at it the other day. So I like drawing that what's that dude who's like a big like robot guy?
Yeah, I should know that right away. It's Warlock, right?
Yeah.
But he has like his actual name was like a bunch of consonants. I can't remember.
Like Adam Warlock? Or not, that's a different guy completely.
No. Because it was Cypher was the little kid. Doug was like the little kid. Boy, see, this is something I used to know like by heart in a moment's notice. And like, it's been so long since I've looked at New Mutants comics that it really makes me want to go dig my old boxes out and read them. Because I don't have a complete run, but it's pretty full. Like, I'll bet you it's 3/4 of it. It probably starts around like the Demon Bear saga and then goes the rest of the way through.
So what, you know what I've been up to? We've been talking a lot about this artist that I love named named Alberto Alcala in our chat. But I just did a deep dive yesterday, and I looked at like comic art fans for his stuff. There's like, like 60, 50 pages that I just went through, like just looking at almost every single image.
So wait. That website, the comic, that's people putting up their art of his that they own?
Yeah, it's like original art that they own, yeah, or are selling.
So they're probably nice scans too.
Oh yeah, like real high res black and white scans of the shit. Sometimes, look, sorry, I had cursing. Real high res scans of all that stuff. And what's cool is like, I'm discovering stuff that he inked over people that I didn't know. And he's got like a real specific style. So like just seeing that translated over different artists has been really interesting. One of the ones that I was really excited about was I saw that he did a book with him and Rich Buckner started it, but like Rich Buckner left like after 20 pages, and it was Nightmare on Elm Street.
They did a comic?
Yeah, for Marvel. It was like, how they used to do those like Conan the Barbarian magazines?
Yeah, yeah.
It was like that format, and it was like 40 pages, and it was the guy when Rich Buckner left, Tony DeZuniga came on.
Oh, nice.
He's like my guy from out here.
Yeah.
And he also like brought Alcala and Redondo and all those dudes because he was the first to come over from the Philippines. So he came over, and then all those dudes kind of followed. And yeah, I just was like scrolling through, and I saw one that was like beautiful. I'm like, whoa, who's this? I saw DeZuniga, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't even know that they like worked together. Like, I'm sure at some point, but like that was pretty neat to see. So now I'm debating whether or not like I could like when I have to like buy one of these magazines.
Yeah.
At least like the second issue, because that's all those two. But it just looks amazing.
I don't remember, did Tony DeZuniga, did he get inked a lot? I felt like he inked himself, right? Am I making that up?
He inked himself, and he inked a lot of other people.
Oh, did he?
Like, yeah, like he inked like Todd McFarlane on like Infinity, was super like just green. Like you could tell like he's still figuring out like how to do all those tricks and stuff. But DeZuniga inked a lot of people, and Alcala inked a lot of people. I think just because back then, because there were Filipino guys, their names didn't carry the weight that some of the American illustrators did, then they would just get put on to ink it, but they were like better than those, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they were better than the people they were inking. And DeZuniga broke out of that really fast. And I think for whatever reason, Alcala just kept like inking other people, which was like, it's neat to see because like no matter what artist, he'll just like kind of elevate it. So like to see him inking somebody who doesn't really need an inker, pretty cool.
And pretty stylized too, right? Like that's not like, I don't know, just from what I saw that you were sending, we were sharing in a chat, that stuff seemed really, it has a point of view. Like it's really a strong sensibility when he inks. So it's interesting.
I mean, yeah, he's got like really good drapery, and he just will go crazy with textures, like fine line textures and backgrounds and stuff. Yeah. And it's awesome to see that translated across like artists that are kind of stiff, artists that are, very fluid. Like it's really great when he would work with John Buscema for Conan because he could just draw really well already, right? So like that's like a treat. Like, okay, I get to like just render this face like as good as I can do that. I could do these raw, you know what I mean? But then like you could tell that because he had such a very like a very clear, like obvious personal style of like draping like, fabrics and stuff, that when he would do a tape, it was just like, that's all him. Like that's not drawn there. Yeah,
I wonder if something had been drawn there and he just took liberties with it, or he just would push it in that direction because that's just his style regardless. That's interesting.
Well, what's funny too is like, cause I'm deep down a rabbit hole with this guy right now, right? Mainly because he did some barbarian stuff, and I'm looking at that to influence how I did some stuff that's like almost like just borderline tribute. Like I just draw it like him in my book. You've seen that one page. But the first trade I ever got, the second trade I ever got, I got it at Barnes & Noble, and it was Batman Year 2. Did you ever read that?
Batman Year 2. So it's a Year 1 riff. That was like a second book. I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, this one right here.
I recognize the cover. I'd never read that book. In fact, I didn't realize it was called Batman Year 2. That's interesting. Who drew that thing?
So it starts off with Alan Davis,
Oh,
and
nice.
then he leaves, and then it's Todd McFarlane, and
Oh,
that's
really?
like the iconic McFarlane shot where he's like over the, this one right here.
Yes, I've seen that image. I didn't realize it was from that book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it
Kate.
was from this, but Alcala inks him for 2 issues of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, but it looks extra good too.
It looks so good. And then I was thinking, like, what was going on that he must have been like, I got to do this myself.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because we know what kind of ego that dude has. He's a lunatic. So I'm fascinated by what happened between issue 2 and 3 of like McFarlane's, like,
Yeah.
like his run on this thing.
I feel like that's something we could get an answer to. You know?
I don't think that is. I don't think I have the resources to get an answer to that.
I mean, we can dig around, or I don't know. Sometimes I see that dude at a show. I don't know him personally, but I see him at shows enough to where if you ever had a chance to talk to him, that would be an easy question. I think, like a natural question to ask.
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying I'm never in his circle. You are, because you're a big time mover and shaker in Hollywood. And
Hey man, it's interesting to me that a Year 2 came out. So like Batman Year 1, I don't know how long it took because I'm just young enough to where I don't know how popular that book was when it actually came out. But like for me growing up, that book was a massive deal, and it was in my local library, so I read the covers off of it. I just really liked it, and then later found that it was kind of really relevant in Batman comics history too. It's interesting to me they did a Year 2. And they were like changing artists in the middle of it. And is it one consistent story?
Well, Batman Year 1 was in the middle of Batman, just like Batman.
Oh, really? Like it was a like sub story in the regular book?
Yeah, it was like Batman 404 to like 407 or something. That was just part of.
I never.
That was
knew
just
that.
like 4 issues of like just the Batman book, and then this was 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was like a year later, I guess. Oh, sorry. So this might have been around actually like the exact same time, but it was just in Detective Comics.
Oh, I see. Oh, do you think they ran them like it was one sort of idea that they just put into 2 different books? That's interesting.
Yeah, so it says June, September of '87, and Year 1 was February and May. So just like later on that year, they just did a Year 2.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I never knew that, and I didn't know that was like right in the middle of that run either. That's kind of wild, considering it's something that now is like a Bible, you know?
Yeah, it like stands out on its own.
Yeah.
I feel like they used to do that more often, where they would, but then they developed like Legends of the Dark Knight, where then they can just like wholly devote it to just like people's takes like that.
Yeah, yeah, which is a pretty cool thing. That man, I don't know if it's just that was my sensibility already, or if it helped define that. But that, like, the Mazzucchelli simplicity of how he told that story, it was so impactful. I didn't read Dark Knight Returns until probably 8 years later, probably. Like, Year 1 was a much bigger deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
My local library, man, they had a pretty good selection when I look back. It was a lot of classic books like that, and like original Ninja Turtles runs, and ElfQuest, like a ton of ElfQuest, which was still pretty.
Was that your library in Hayward or Oakland or whatever?
That was Castro Valley's library.
Castro Valley.
Yeah, when I was like middle school age, and I used to hang out down there like most days, or even high school. Like I get off high school and I walk down and read whatever they had, because they would get new books periodically too.
Yeah, so I'm like what, 10 years younger than you about that?
I think I'm 42.
Yeah, I'm 33, so like 9 years younger. But
yeah.
So like, but I think, well, my point is just like in that time they got more comics at the library when I was going.
Yeah.
And that's how I started reading comics for the most part too. Was we couldn't afford comics when I was growing up, so then I would just go down. I lived in Manteca, so I would just walk there with my friends and we just hang out there because it was like, free to be there.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was air conditioned. It wasn't too far, and
air conditioned too.
We would
Double
just hang out.
Yeah.
And I remember, just seeing like the comic section. I was like, wait, what's going on over here? Like, there's comics, and then like I got a library card, and it was over. I was just like,
Is that how you got
every-
into comics specifically though? Like that's really your path, was your first reading, was that?
Well, I liked them. I just couldn't afford them, you know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the cartoons were hot when I was younger, and I asked my mom to take me to a comic shop, and there was one in Tracy. That's kind of like on the main street, and every time we would pass there to go to like my grandma's house or something, I would just see it and like, you know, just like, oh, what's going on in there, you know? And
Yeah.
so finally, she took me in one day, and she let me pick out like an X-Men comic, and then I just trashed it. So then, like, anytime she would be like, oh, what do you like? I'd be like, oh, I want to go to the, you know, comic shop again. Can we go? She's like, oh, what happened to that comic I got? I'm like, all right, yeah. Yeah. Okay, fair.
I kept mine in a paper bag and I just stacked them, and then I'd open the bag up and I'd take out the ones I wanted that day, and I just like, my bag got pretty full after a long enough period of time, but I mean it was the same bag for for a long time, and those were well-read comics, man, because you're right, like we didn't have a ton of money, so we would buy them every now and again, but I would really cherish them, and I'd just stick them in this bag, and that was like my collection for a long time.
When I had less, I cherished like every single one. Like,
Yes.
every comic was like the best one.
Yeah.
I remember my brother was doing some project and he needed magazines for like a collage or something, and my aunt, her husband worked for the post office or like some sort of something like that, and like, oh, we have some stuff that, you know, like was extra or something, and or they just had them, but they gave us like a stack of comics, not like a big stack, but like one of them was like the Fantastic Four Rebirth.
Yep.
The Jim Lee, remember that? Or Heroes Reborn.
Heroes Reborn is what it was. Yeah, yeah.
And then there was like a random issue of that, and then it was like a Captain America, not Captain America, a Superman that was like a very special like issue where like he's this little girl dies of gun violence, and he has to like, how does Superman reckon with gun violence?
Oh,
you know?
with the real
like,
thing. I like it.
Like there was like a few random ones, and like those ones I would just look at them forever, especially the Fantastic Four one.
Yeah.
Because that also had like on the back of it, in the back of it had a preview for Khazar, like when Andy Kubert drew that.
Yep. Yep. I bought that book.
And then it had like an Excalibur thing or something. And yeah, so I just looked at it forever. I was just like, and that Khazar one was especially crazy to me because it would do this thing where it was like, it would fade like the finished start to the inks to the pencils, you know? So like, I didn't realize that people made that, you know, like you see those things as a kid and you don't really like, it's not like, you know, a thing that you think is like something people make, you know, you just think of it as like a finished thing was like really big, because then I was like, oh wow, like I should start drawing. I mean, I already like to draw, but like start drawing comics specifically. It was because I would see those, like that image specifically, and I would just like look at, oh, okay, so then they do this, and they do this, and they, you know.
Yeah. I didn't realize that either. Like those are different steps, as an example. Like that stuff didn't occur to me till way later. But I would, you know, you read comics long enough and you'd be like, okay, I like this style. But there was a lot of consistency when I was reading comics in the early days. Like a run would be drawn by the same person for a long time. You know, most of the time, 10 or 20 issues, let's say. And I don't feel like it's that way so often anymore. It does happen, but not nearly as often.
Yeah, then my grandma had got me How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way from a yard sale.
Oh yeah.
Here in Stockton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she gave it to me in like the 5th grade, and it was like at the point where I actually had like the intellectual curiosity to actually like look through it, not just be like copy the images that are in there, you know?
Yeah.
Like not just trace it, like actually try and like read it and figure out what they were talking about. So that like was big because that gave me a leg up, because I was actually drawing my own stuff, like my own figures and stuff, and they were bad, but they were mine, you know?
Yeah.
And other people were just tracing, and you don't get good by that as much as you get like you could be a good artist but not be a good like cartoonist, which is like what you and I are, you know?
Yeah. You can learn from that as a you know, a thing to do for practice, but it's not going to teach you how to really draw necessarily. It'll just teach you things that you should be looking out for. I got that book at around that same age, and it was totally the same thing. Really impactful. The idea of thinking about structure underneath, you know, like in my mind, it's like you see these figures and they're in these poses, and you just think like, oh, that's that pose. But like, you know, the older you get, you're like, oh, I see that. I mean, it's not as simple as that. Like, there's a structure going on under there you need to understand if you're going to change these poses, you know? That book was massive for me. It's
Yeah.
funny hearing you talk about Heroes Reborn. I remember when that came out and thinking like, I wasn't into it. I think, and the reason I remember it's.
Oh, you weren't into it?
No, I mean I read it. I read all of it probably, but because at that age I was super fanboying anyway. But I remember thinking like it was one of the first events where I'm like, geez, it seems like they just did an event for the sake of doing an event. It's like I was old enough to kind of have a sense of that.
Hmm.
But I was just reading
Yeah.
Ryb Liefeld talking on Twitter just like in the last day about how that was the best-selling comic of that time period. Like it sold insane numbers. If this tweet is correct, it would imply that this was like one of the hottest runs ever. And I'm so curious to know if that's true. And also, he just did a whole podcast on this topic. And now I kind of want to listen to it to hear his take on what it was like coming back. Because, they had been gone. That was their return to Marvel, right?
Yeah.
Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld, that was their big comeback. So I guess it must have sold well.
I think Wallace, too, came back.
Who did?
Portacio.
Oh, did he really? I don't remember him doing.
Did he not do one? I thought he did. I thought he took after one of them or something. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember.
In my memory, it was like Adam Cooper drew some of that stuff too, but I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
It's so fuzzy. I'd like to read it again. Onslaught was like Magneto and Professor X's brains going together somehow, their psyches melding. Or am I mixing that up with Onslaught? Onslaught's part of that whole thing too, right?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I think
I never read past like those issues, the one that I had. The one that I had, and then like eventually I got the trade, but I just didn't care because then I was like reading 10 other trades, right?
Yeah.
Because of the library. Yeah.
Yeah. And the preciousness of that early, when you get your early collection versus like, I went to the shop a week or two ago and I had a stack of books I haven't even gotten to yet. And I always feel like guilty, like, man, what did that happen, I bought both.
When I started making comics, I thought I'm not going to be one of those guys that doesn't read comics. And then I became absolutely one of those guys who doesn't read as much comics as before. Like I have a book by Adrian Tomine, his new one.
A new one, yeah.
I got it because it came out right around my birthday. So I'm like, I'm gonna get this for myself. Treat myself a little bit. Yeah. And so I got it, and then, man, I read it one day. I loved it. It's incredible. And then I just kind of stopped. I just kind of stopped reading. I forgot about it. I'm about to go read some of it today, actually.
I want to read that book. I tried to get it at the shop, but I think I missed. When I was there, it was coming out like 2 days later or something. I just missed the window. But I'm gonna buy that book. I'm curious about it. I bought the two November. You know that book November?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That was like my big. I caught that. I missed that the first time, and so I wanted to pick up 1 and 2 before 3 had come out because I'm curious about that book. I hear it's really good.
We got a question from the chat that said, "What are our favorite non-Big Two superheroes, or I think comics in general?"
Well, you telling me somebody's watching this?
Somebody asked us a question.
Oh, what was the question?
What are your favorite non-Big Two superhero comic story?
Non-Big Two. Do you have a fast answer for that?
Love and Rockets.
Oh, Love and Rockets. That's massive.
Yeah, Jaime Hernandez, Love and Rockets, because that might just me like maybe my second favorite comic of all time behind Invisibles. So.
Of all time, I'm trying to think about like an entire run I read where at the end of it I was like, this is one of the greatest series. I'll bet you I felt that way about Preacher when I finished Preacher originally. Because I felt like the ending really paid off. Like I felt like when I got to the end, I'm like, man, this is a complete story from beginning to end. I guess that was Big Two though, huh? Was that DC? Was that Vertigo? Who put out Preacher?
Vertigo was Preacher. Vertigo was Preacher.
The last thing I read, they got me super excited like that. I don't know. It's like funny. I look at my shelf, like what the most recent things I picked up. I still been reading that Alac Sinner off and on because the art was so good, but I wasn't really for the writing so much. I just really like the art in it. Yeah. It's the most frequent thing I've been reading or picking up and constantly looking at.
Well, I think we should probably start wrapping up. I mean, I know it like went by really fast because we talked for like hours every week, but I think we're like coming up to the 5 minute for the next people to come.
That's too bad, man. I wanted to ask about Street Kings because we were talking about David Ayer recently, and I didn't realize he directed that movie. Have you ever seen that movie, Street Kings?
No.
It was Keanu Reeves and like Chris Evans, I think, from probably 15, 20 years ago. It's the only, like, I was looking through David, recently we've been talking about David Ayer, and I was looking back at all the stuff he's done. And he didn't write that one. The guy from Training Day wrote it, but he directed it. And I remember seeing this movie and thinking at the time, this was good, but like, I'll bet you that was when it was new. So it was so long ago, I need to watch it again. The one consistent thing is that one actor, he's in all those movies. Every one of those David Ayer movies, I feel like this guy pops up in. I don't remember the guy's name. I might have it here, actually.
Hey, a couple of questions.
Hey, Justin, what you got
before you go?
Oh, yeah.
Was that Mike?
Oh, yeah.
For Ramon, what's your favorite Eric Roberts movie?
My favorite Eric Roberts movie is probably, that's tough because I've just been watching some more of them. Right now, Popes of Greenwich Village, still probably. It's his
I seen that recently. That's a good one.
He's so good at it. He's like, Charlie, they took my finger. Hey, when we got to meet him, when I got to meet him at StocktonCon, me and Justin rolled up there to his thing. That was incredible. That's the only time I ever paid to meet a celebrity, and it was worth every dollar of that.
The interaction was so genuine that I thought, now I sort of understand why people do this, because normally I honestly don't. Yeah. But I watched that interaction, and like, this was nice. Like, this was a nice thing. I'm into it.
Eric is a great man, and you know, it's funny. I know, Ramon, you and I have talked about this, but he's had almost 600 movie and TV credits. It's just amazing.
Yeah, he's done a lot.
That's crazy.
And Justin, for you, just getting a few of these questions to put through to you.
Yeah.
What did you think of the adaptation of Stumptown? I know you were involved with it, but
yeah,
you know, what did you think overall of the series?
Oh man, I thought it was great. You know, it's
real quick, can you finish up with that, because I got to use the bathroom really bad.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for joining us, Ramon. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. It just came up in the middle of it. I really appreciate it. Sorry, but like that's a good question. That's a good question to end on, because like people got to watch Stumptown. So so I want you to finish off with that, and I got to go use it. Like, thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Ramon.
Yeah. It was awesome, man. I mean, it's a pretty surreal thing to see comics, anything you worked on, get adapted to another media, but especially one like the show. It was Stumptown on ABC was a big deal. Like, for us, it was a massive deal, and like, a lot of people watched it. And hopefully, we'll watch it on the next season in September. But ideally in September. I guess we really don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah, it seems like you know, a lot of the fall television stuff is up in the air, because so much of the shooting is like close to the season, right?
Yeah. Like, normally they would be mid-August. I think they'd be starting to shoot relatively soon, but I honestly don't know where they're at with figuring out a method that's safe on that. We do have the benefit of shooting from a studio that's consistent, so at least it's an environment we can control for the most part. But even still, I mean, there's only so much control you can get. So I don't know where the word is on that. I'll be curious to find out. But anyways, it felt amazing. It's really interesting to see that stuff come to life, and also just to see the themes and I don't know, the stuff that we felt was important about that story and those characters. That stuff came through on the screen, which was pretty awesome. So that was the biggest thing for us.
So we'll wrap this up here, Justin. The final question is, what is next for you? Like, what are you working on right now, and what's coming that you can talk about?
Yeah, man, it's such a crazy time. I'm not exaggerating when I have like 3 or 4 projects on my table right now, and I'm not sure when any are coming out right this minute. But I have a series that I'm almost finished with. I'm drawing the 5th issue of a 5-issue series that's going to be at Image, and I would imagine it's going to be announced probably in the next 3 months, but I don't know when. And I'm working on a one-shot with a friend of mine that's like a crime thing based in Oakland. I'm really excited about that one too. But again, like, I don't know when. I think we'll probably wait till it's completely done before we put it out there.
Is that more of just a crime piece, or is there a superhero element? Or
there's not a superhero element to it, although there is another element to it. But I think it would be giving something away to mention it.
Gotcha.
But it's a totally fun, like a 60-page, just like the thing kicks off and it just runs the whole time. It's really fun pace. And the next thing that's on my plate officially, though, is we're going to do some more Stumptown. So I'm excited about doing more of the comics.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. So, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time, Justin. We already thanked Ramon, but it was great to kind of hear you guys kind of chop it up a little bit here on Facebook Live. And it's a, a real unique situation we're in right now with not being able to be in Stockton Arena today. But really appreciate you taking the time, and have a great rest of the day, man.
You too. Thanks, Mike.
All right.